Sometimes a game is released that's so good it casts a shadow over the entire gaming industry. A game that can no longer be reviewed. A game considered a classic. But what is it that makes these games tick? Why do we love them so much? Let's dig in and find out. Grab your gloves, grab your scalpel, it's time for a dissection. Limbo is a surreal puzzle platformer developed by Playdead Studios in 2010 for the Xbox 360. But you would know that already had you seen my Mighty review released a couple weeks ago. For those of you who haven't seen it, you can check it out right here. And for those of you who have, you know that I think this game is an absolute masterpiece, combining gameplay and presentation elements into one complete package and making an amazing game that excels at atmosphere. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. We're going to find out how it is that Limbo created some of the best atmosphere in any game ever made. And how are we going to do this? We're going to play the first 15 minutes. So, without further ado, let's cut into this thing and see what makes it so great. Let's start at the very beginning. I'm not kidding when I say that the first thing you do in this game already implies smart design decisions. You're given a scene of a forest and can vaguely make out the silhouette of the boy lying down. Nothing happens until you press a button. This right here tells the player that they are the ones starting the adventure. They are choosing to move. It's nothing too major, but it already starts to make the player feel like part of the world while also making them feel a bit more connected to this character. And it does all of this before they even take a step. At this point, the player can either go left or right. If they go right, they start the game. But if they go left, they'll find an empty space with the game's first hidden collectible. This allows new players to realize that left is the wrong way to go, and returning players to find a secret. Moving on, we reach our first obstacle. This is here to teach people new to video games how the jumping mechanic works, but it teaches all players the height and distance of their character's jump. After this, we see an unreachable platform, but look at what happens when you get near the wagon's handle. The boy stretches out his arms, implying that he can grab this. These two instances show why this game succeeds in creating its atmosphere. The fourth wall is never broken to give the player instructions on how to play. And much like how a good movie follows the mantra show, don't tell, a good game usually follows this. Teach with play, not with text. Anyway, moving on. There's not much I can say about the boat scene except that it's absolutely beautiful. Also, it could be implying that the boy is crossing the river Styx, but that could just be me reading too far into things. Now on to the first real traps in the game, the bear traps. While wandering around, these might look like grass to a player not paying attention. This isn't a mistake they'll want to make twice. Getting killed by these bear traps tells the player two things. First, this is a cold and brutal world, and second, they have to be careful when making their way through the world. The boy's jump won't ever get him over the traps, but just like with the wagon, the boy stretches his arms out, giving the player a hint at the solution for this simple puzzle. Soon, the player is once again told to be careful by the Indiana Jones-inspired log trick. They then see a box next to some water, and if they haven't learned already, they'll now know that the boy can't swim. And once they get the log down from the tree, they learn that certain objects can float. This whole first 15 minutes is about teaching the player new mechanics and how the world works the entire time. And now it's time for our friendly neighborhood giant fucking spider. At first, the player will probably attempt to run past the spider, assuming they dodge all of its attacks, but this will just end in... But while trying to figure this out, players who pay attention will hear the bear traps seen earlier fall to the ground. If that wasn't hint enough, the entire screen also shakes a little when the spider misses an attack. And if all of that wasn't enough, watch what happens when the boy gets close to the spider. The screen zooms in when he gets underneath the bear trap, not when he's close to the spider. This draws your eye to the branch holding the bear trap, and it should give players enough of a hint to solve this puzzle within a reasonable amount of time. Now the player can use the trap to get rid of the spider and move on, only to be caught in its web. This is a really cool scene because it makes the player think that they're dead when in reality it's scripted. This puts the player on edge for the rest of the game presentation-wise, questioning whether death is real or scripted, while the hopping controls cause them to feel uncomfortable gameplay-wise. This is a good thing because this unease is exactly the atmosphere the developers want the game to convey to the player. On top of this, remember how I said that the game was teaching the player to be slow and methodical? Well, here the spider comes back to chase the player, forcing them out of this mindset. It's this pushing back and forth that forces players out of their comfort zone, always on edge while playing, and it's this connection between gameplay and presentation that causes Limbo to have some of the best atmosphere of any game I have ever played. Next, we see our first human. We then see our first human death. Moving on. We soon see from the fake spider rolling rocks and swinging bear traps that the other children are complete dicks. We don't know if they attack out of rage or fear, but it does evoke a certain Lord of the Flies feeling to the world. And then we get another visit from Mr. Spider. We hit him with a rock and then find an unpassable bed of spikes. That is, until the spider comes out again. It's only got one leg this time, so we yank it off and push his body into the spike pit to use as a platform. This shows that the boy isn't as innocent as he appears and is willing to do anything to get to his goal. I mean, hell, if this were anything but a spider, I'd almost feel bad. This ruthless nature can also be seen when he drags a dead body to activate a trap and gets the other kids killed by their own traps. Sure, he did it in self-defense, but in some small way, this boy is responsible for the deaths of these other children, meaning that maybe they are afraid of him. We've now hit the 15-minute mark, and I want to go on, but I can't because if I did, this video would be way too long, but let me just remark on two other things. First, the leech that forces the player to move in one direction takes control away from the player, again creating a sense of unease. Finally, the game continues to make the player feel unsafe in this world by transitioning from the populated woods to the isolated factory area. I could go on for hours about the psychological implications of this transition, but I think here is a good point to leave off. So that's our first episode, Dissection. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel for some more, and leave a comment down below letting me know what game I should put on my table next. And before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out to the team over at Extra Credits. Their Design Club series is actually what inspired me to make this series, and I hope it does them proud. Be sure to go check them out. I'll leave a link down in the description below. And as always, guys, have a mighty nifty day today.